everybody. My name is Keely Spring. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist in the state of California and Wisconsin. Random, but yes. And this is my podcast where I talk to fellow clinicians about the work they do and the kind of things that go into the journey as well as the modalities. We kind of cover a lot of topics in this. And to that end, I actually am just meeting Brittany today. I actually found her again randomly on LinkedIn. So you never know where you're going to find some talented clinicians. And to that end, Brittany, would you mind introducing yourself, kind of the niches, the populations you work with, and where you're located? Because I know you're not near where I am, so I'm super excited to kind of hear your experience, kind of being in a different part of the country here.
Of course. Well, thank you so much for having me on, Keely. And I am so happy you reached out on LinkedIn. Yeah, so to anyone, definitely make the cold reach out connections. They work great.
Great.
So if you're afraid of doing it, just, yeah, make it happen. I am a licensed clinical social worker. I'm based in the Raleigh, North Carolina area. I've been here now for 10 years. I grew up in the Philadelphia area. So if,
East
go
Coast.
birds.
Yeah.
It's like Philadelphia Aloha, basically. So So yeah, I work with people in relationships. So I like to say I specialize in intimacy. So as an Intimi UC, I help individuals see into themselves, their own patterns, do a lot of family of origin work, work into a lot of times friendships, family of origins, and then also like current family relationships, whether that's in-laws or other people involved, as well as romantic partnerships. And I also work with couples as well.
Lots of aspects. We'll try to dive into some pieces of that for sure. Uh, Before we do that, though, could you kind of share with the audience what was your journey? Like, how did you decide to become a social worker? Like, what was that path?
So I originally wanted to go to school for journalism. I was very interested in writing and human stories. And then I took a psychology class in high school. And the very first day of college, I told my parents I wanted to switch my major to psychology. And first, my mom later told me, she was like, I panicked because I thought, oh no, she doesn't know what she wants to do with her life. So her panic moment, but she kept it cool in the moment. So I give her major credit for that. And I then my aunt is a clinical social worker, and she said, if you're going to go down this path, which I don't recommend you do, but if you decide to, recommend you go the social worker route. And so one day she worked in a day treatment center for co-occurring disorders, so people who are struggling with substance use as well as mental health. And she said, "Come see what I do." And I got to shadow the clinicians that worked there, and I loved it. And because it was group work, and I knew that there was some individual work as well, and I went, "Yes, this is exactly what I want to do." So I switched my major to social work, got my master's in social work, started out in family therapy. I thought that family therapy was the holistic way of seeing all the dynamics because I was like, do I want to work with kids? Do I want to work with adults? Like, what do I actually want to do? And I thought this is a way where you get it all. And I also had a professor say, if you can work with families, you can work with anyone. And I said, challenge accepted. I'll take it. So that's what was my starting point. So I was doing in-home work with families, and then I moved into addiction work, and I worked in an intensive outpatient center and switched into the professional realm. So it was people who were high-level doctors, CEOs, dentists, who were then in struggling with substance use. So it was a very different population, but it also was very eye-opening in a lot of ways too, because it was so early in my career. So there was a lot of imposter syndrome that I had to work through myself of like, I have a client who's a CEO and I'm 25. Like they're looking at me like, what do you know about life? And so I made sure to double down and like I'm coming in like well read, well researched, read every Brene Brown book, listened to every podcast, just did all the work to try and basically prove myself in that area, but also so deeply enjoyed the work. So I loved like the group aspect, seeing the relationships were built, the group cohesion, working with individuals, and then working with families, which a lot of times were couples. And I was like, I really like this couples work. I really enjoy doing this. And so when I went into private practice, I made sure I honed in on it.
hmm hmm Yeah, it's funny you bring up imposter syndrome. That's one of the niches I work with. But interestingly, I think most clinicians I've spoken to over the years have had imposter syndrome at some point because we are in these positions where we're trying to help people that, just come from these different backgrounds, and you can have these hits of like, oh gosh, what do I know?
Yeah, I think it's helpful. I think I heard Seth Godin say if you don't have imposter syndrome, you're not pushing yourself hard enough. And so
Oh, love it.
I kind of think of it as like a little dose of it can go a long way.
Yes, for sure. It can be a driving factor in a
Sure.
sense, for sure. Um, okay, so what do you like about being a clinician? What is kind of something that you enjoy, or maybe there's more than one thing?
A lot of things. I think I am genuinely grateful for clients to be able to come in and share their most intimate thoughts, experiences, details of their lives with me.
Mhm.
It's a very special space. Um, I enjoy seeing them like especially in couples work, you see the most like deepest intimate moments of people that are absolutely beautiful. I think couples therapy gets this rap that you're seeing a lot of conflict and people yelling at each other or stonewalling each other. And what I often see is people say things for the first time to each other and they hear it in a way where they're actually able to receive it. And it does create this like it's almost sometimes I feel like I'm like watching a movie when I'm in my job too. It's like watching this whole experience unfold and it just I feel very lucky to be there. So I think that that is one aspect of the job that I do love.
Mhm. Yeah, for sure. That definitely resonates for me as well. So, I love that you shared it.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's dive into modalities. When you're working with couples or individuals, what kind of modalities or things do you pull from? I heard a little Gottman, actually, maybe before you speak to that, would you mind just mentioning the term stonewalling? You just said stonewalling. Some people might not know what that term means. Could you just kind of mention that and then maybe dive into the modalities?
Right, yeah. So, Gottman has what they call the four horsemen, and these are basically the strategies that people might use in relationships when they're feeling in themselves threatened. So they are defensiveness, criticism, stonewalling, and contempt. Contempt is often the identifier of this relationship will not work if there's a high level of contempt within the relationship. But stonewalling you might see as like someone really shutting down. And so that might be I'm shutting you out as a form of punishment, or I'm just shutting down, pulling away because I feel so overwhelmed with myself. So in EFT, emotionally focused therapy world, we call it the withdrawer. Yeah, we call it the withdrawer, and we oftentimes like give it sort of the generous interpretation of this person is so overwhelmed that they're shutting down when someone who is a pursuer, and it might be actually critical because they're trying to get their needs met. So then they're coming at somebody, and then while the other person is shutting down because they're overwhelmed, the other person's feeling really anxious and heightened. So that's a little mix of the Gottman and EFT world right there.
Mhm,
But
for sure.
yeah, so yes. So then to your question, emotionally focused therapy. I also love doing somatic work. I like
Mhm.
to say that some people are like bakers and some people are like chefs when it comes to their jobs. If you're a baker, you like step by step methodologies and like almost like you're doing the methodology to fidelity and to a T. And I know some really great clinicians who are in the emotionally focused therapy realm who are very much like to fidelity. I say that I'm more like a chef where I like to pull from a few different things. I like to pull from like systems work and family therapy, particularly Minution's work. I like to pull from emotionally focused therapy, and I like to pull even from like I listen to Esther Perel all the time, so I'll pull from her work. Like so, I like to take a little bit of everything and see kind of like what works in a session and to the individuals or to the couples that I'm working with.
Yeah, fair. Could you just mention the systems work a little bit? So what does that kind of mean? You spoke a little bit to the EFT, and maybe Esther Perel as well, because she's a powerhouse in the field.
Oh yeah, she is. Yeah. So family systems work is and I say Salvador Minuchin, he was actually based in Philadelphia for a very long time. So a lot of the professors and people who I got to work with in grad school and even undergrad, some of them even studied under him for their careers, which was pretty cool. So systems work essentially looks at the whole family as a system, and everyone has a role in our system. There's always boundaries in the system, depending on whether they're porous or rigid. There's a spectrum to that. There's always a power dynamic in the system. So we're looking at the whole family as almost like I like to say is everyone has a role and everyone plays a character and a part, and we're looking to see what part everyone is playing and how the whole system is moving or how the whole movie is unfolding for these families and their lives. So if anyone has ever seen The Bear, it is a great representation of what family systems looks like. Like, I mean, it plays it out to a T. You have like Natalie, who is the classic like hero child. She's the one who is like really trying to like make sure that everyone has it all together. You have Donna, who's the struggling one. She's the one who does struggle with addiction, and so that the whole system is moving around her addiction. Michael is also a struggling one, and he's also the oldest child, so he takes on some of that like rebellious type of role.
Hmm.
And then you have Carmi, who's like the invisible one or the lost child. So like those are some of the family systems roles that we'll identify. And when I'm doing family of origin work with individuals, we'll often get into what was your role growing up in your system? Like what was the character that you played? Who was everyone else playing? So we almost like picture it like a movie and then really get into how it was for that person's experience.
Yeah. I absolutely love that analogy. That's wonderful. I think that's really tangible for people. And Esther Perel a little bit. Could you just kind of give people a flavor of what work she does?
Oh my gosh. So she also studied under Salvador Minuchin, and she, I would say, is a chef in the field because she pulls from a lot of different modalities. I got to see her, got to go to her conference back in April, and she is totally a powerhouse. But sex and intimacy and eroticism, and I think how she really pulls the eroticism into the field and makes it such an accessible way to understand and talk about it for people has revolutionized even sex therapy for people who don't do sex therapy or wouldn't identify doing sex therapy. So she really hones in on how eroticism can be used as like a treatment. It's a form, it's not just a form of aliveness, it's a form of this is how you instill a sense of fulfillment for people. This is how you start to like really get into an experience of pleasure and how pleasure can be a treatment for people who are struggling.
Yeah, for sure. She's a couple, I think she has a podcast now as well. I've seen her speak as well. She's really powerful to see.
Yeah.
Uh and she's got a couple books that I've read that I would say are pretty good is Mating in Captivity and then The State of Affairs, which is kind of about, affairs and relationships. And, I saw her speak to that one time and she's like, people think I'm like pro affair. That's not the
Yeah.
point.
Yeah, and it's kind of interesting because someone said to me, they're like, yeah, because she gives like she gives more of a polite like kind of stance to the people who cheat. And I'm like, well, it's interesting because it's not really like a polite stance, it's just a very understanding and curious stance. And there's accountability there. It's not, she even says like I wouldn't recommend having an affair, just like I wouldn't recommend getting cancer. Like it just I wouldn't recommend it. However, the more that we can de-shame it and understand it, the more that we can actually like deepen the experience and deepen the healing for people who have experienced any sort of infidelity.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. I think, to that point, shame is such a barrier to people getting support. You mentioned being a part of addiction, when you're training and all that kind of stuff. Shame is very big in addiction work. It's big in affair work. It kind of, I think, is one of those common themes that I see keeps people from seeking therapy sometimes because there is so much shame, and her whole kind of narrative is like, let's stop the shaming so that we can actually get to the root of the problem and work on it
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, shame's invasive.
everywhere.
Yeah.
Um, So it sounds like I love the chef and the baker analogy. So it sounds like you tend to be a little bit more organic and kind of pull from all these different areas. But what would
Mhm.
you say like a typical session is for you? Are you kind of what's your flow? Is it more kind of like there's certain things I'm checking in on every time, or am I kind of just following where they lead? Could you just kind of give a flavor of what a session might look like?
Sure. So I start with a session, and I will caveat, I guess, is that I do both sessions in person and virtually. So that even itself has a different kind of feel. I find that when sessions are virtual, we dive right in. I feel like when they're in person, there's a little bit of like a warm up to it, but so there is this kind of, it's just a totally different kind of experience. So typically, it's like I'm checking in on people and seeing like how they're doing today, as they are now, what's happening, if there's anything that they want to bring up that's happened since we last saw each other. Sometimes I see people weekly, sometimes I see them every other week, some people are once a month. So it kind of depends on the cadence. So check in on that. And typically relating it back to something that we've either been working on or talking about. And then sometimes that also brings in new insights or deepening insights. So when it's like, let's say it's someone who is really struggling in their relationship with their spouse, and they're saying, like, we keep having this argument and I keep feeling like I'm not being heard. And so then I'm going into, okay, so when you say that you feel like you're not being heard, what is actually happening for you? What's the emotional experience? How are you feeling in your body? How old do you feel? Like where, like this isn't a, like a lot of times when we experience this in our relationships, it's not a new feeling or experience. So we really want to like dive it back to where this maybe originates to then see like how is that showing up for you now? What do you do with it? Where's maybe some things that we can do to heal it and do things differently with it. So meaning that too, what's the relational need that's happening? If there's an emotion to this and it's I'm not feeling heard, then I often hear what I'm hearing is that you're hurt by this. And if we can deepen into what is that pain point, what is the hurt, if it's like I feel like I'm not enough, I feel like I don't matter, I feel like I'm just overlooked, I feel like I'm invisible. It's like, okay, let's get into that wound and like really get into what is that part of you need? Like what can maybe we get do in the session to meet that need? Maybe it's also asking for the people around you to help you meet that need. So it's kind of a we're doing this in the session in real time and we're also giving strategies for what to do outside a session.
Yeah. Yeah. Love it. Love it.
Yeah.
Um, you kind of mentioned the just now too, the cadence piece. Um, Sometimes, I'll just tell you what I generally tell people, and I want to hear what you would tell people and wonder if there's like differences in how we might approach this. But I generally say for people, when they say like, how long am I going to be in therapy? Like the truth is I'm trying to make myself redundant in their lives. I'm trying to get them to a place where they're not in therapy, which is kind of counterintuitive to the business model, maybe. That said, I always think that at the beginning it's good to do weekly sessions because it's harder to, if I'm just seeing somebody once a month or we're just playing catch up. And so you kind of mentioned the weekly versus every other week. And I find there's, for me at least, an organic kind of process. We start with weekly and then we have conversations and then maybe we move to every other. And then sometimes there's people that want to kind of keep checking in to make sure that they're, you know, working towards goals or whatever once a month. Is that, I see you nodding. Is that kind of
Yeah.
similar to you or is it different?
Yeah, so I typically say that we're doing weekly consecutive weekly sessions. That's how I need to say it. 'Cause so consecutive weekly sessions for at least like 3 to 4 weeks. And I am an out of network provider, so I also like to kind of put that on the people to just think about for their finances, for what they need, so what fits their lifestyle, their budget, all the things. And
Mhm.
so I say at least minimum three, I like for best, especially so with individuals, it's 4 weeks, and then we can say, we can assess. We can move to every other week, or we can continue with weekly, and we can kind of go from there.
Mhm.
With couples, I will meet with the couple first and do a 90-minute session. And then I do individual sessions with each of them. So they each have their own individual time. And then we continue on with couples work. And then from there, it's like 3 sessions with them as a couple. So that's the type of cadence I like to have with those two different, yeah, kind of dynamics.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
mm,
I appreciate you sharing. It's always, I don't know about you, like in my initial consultations with people, that's always the question that comes up of like, how often are we meeting? When are you, so I think that's something
yep,
people are always curious about that don't necessarily
yeah,
have that information. And each clinician might have different, I've talked to clinicians, not necessarily, I don't know that I've asked anybody in this podcast, but I have talked to clinicians who some people have very rigid, like, no, you'll be in it for a year because we're doing psychodynamic work, or the style of work might be a more, you know, longer cadence, but I have
yes,
approach to what you're talking about.
yes, yeah, yeah. I think that the psychoanalytic psychodynamic community is very much like at least twice a week for a year. Like it can be really intensive kind of work.
For sure, for sure. Which is great for if that works for you. Wonderful. All right.
Yeah.
Okay, so pivoting a little bit here, are there things that surprise you about being a clinician or the work that we do? Is there things that come up that are still surprises?
Yes, I like to say I'm never bored in our jobs. Like it's always fascinating. It's always like, just Even you can work with the same person for a while. Like I've been working with someone for maybe like 5 or 6 years at this point, and even every week still is just like new insights or new something. And even it's like I don't have a lot to talk about. I think that's also kind of where the fun sessions can happen because we're seeing what's unfolding and maybe deepening some of those insights that we've been working on. And it's like, cool. Like the external factors of life are giving you a bit of a break. So this is actually giving us an opportunity to deepen those intimate internal insights for you. So I think that it's fun to see the evolutions and changes in people, which is fun.
You get to see the
Yeah.
growth.
Yeah, seeing the growth. Yeah, and like and yeah, seeing their life evolve or change in whatever ways they want it to. Yeah. Yeah, and it's like, hey, back then I might have thought this, now I think this, and it's like, cool. Yeah. Yes.
Love it. Okay, kind of different, but along the same vein here. Are there things that you wish people knew or understood about being a therapist or the profession?
You don't have to seek therapy when something's wrong. So,
Yeah.
it's like please like I think that when I say that therapy could be for anyone, which is it's kind of funny that we brought up imposter syndrome earlier. I kind of make this joke that I'm like the difference between therapists and coaches is that coaches don't have imposter syndrome and therapists do. I'm like coaches just go all in. They're just like, what do you mean? Like I just got this certificate online that after taking like a 3 hour course and now I'm a life coach. And it's like I've nailed life. It's like cool. A therapist could borrow a little bit from that. I'm like, we could look at that and say, like, hey, actually, if like they're doing the law of attraction, they're like, hey, if you believe it, people will come, and they do.
Uh-huh.
So, so I think that if you're looking for therapy, therapy is a place where you can like truly start to deepen that intimate experience within yourself. And if you can look at it from that place, because if we're looking to I think that like there's this whole, self-love, self-care, self-fulfillment. And while the self is great, I think for the most part, people want to deepen their relationships and their sense of belonging with other people. Because if you're just kind of doing the self-masturbatory thing, where are you actually going? Like, so I like to say that I'm like, you can do, if you come and you commit to this work, it's really giving yourself the opportunity to deepen the relationship both with yourself and other people. And this is the vehicle for that.
Mhm. I love it. I love it. I love the way you frame the coaching. So, side note, I do leadership coaching since like 2017, but it's funny because I always have like the clinical like standpoint, and I always kind of like know what I don't know. And I've met so many coaches over the years, and it's exactly what you're kind of describing. There's this like, I got a certificate, or like, I'm going to teach you how to be spiritual, and I'm like, what? How? Like, why? How? I don't know. I mean,
Yeah,
there's something for everybody, but I don't, it's
so true. So true. Yeah. And I like to also say, like, I know some coaches who are wonderful. So I'm always like mindful of like, hey, if you're listening, it's not you.
yeah,
But
fair.
yeah.
There's amazing coaches out there, 100%. But yeah,
Yeah.
I always refer to it as kind of like the wild, wild west of,
Yeah.
it's just kind of like anybody can call themselves a coach, and you know, that's great, but also it has problems. Whereas the work that we do, you have to like go through all these like hurdles, and just out of curiosity. Uh, in your area, like, so for us, we have to do one of the things that comes up is like every 2 years I have to renew my license. And I have to, prove that I've gotten continuing education units and all those kinds of things. I'm assuming you guys have a kind of similar process. Is that, yeah.
Yeah. I just did mine last month. So yes, like 40 hours of CEs over the course of 2 years. 20 hours of ours have to be live. So they have to be either
Oh,
like
interesting. Okay.
or in person, which have been a lot harder to find since 2020 in particular. And so, yeah, so that's kind of an interesting kind of thing too. So yeah, so we have to renew ours every 2 years with the 40 hours of CEs.
Uh-huh. I think ours is I should look at this because I have to do it in a couple months here, but I think it's like 36, I want to say. But they don't have to be in person. That would be a challenging one uh to meet.
It is. It is because I mean, yeah, they've kind of gone a little bit to the wayside. So we it's really like doing homework to find some of them, and well, also to find ones that you want to engage with. So you can find some for sure. But I don't work with children, so like I'm not really interested in taking the like this is the play therapy for children one. Like so there's some that are like okay, like that's great, this is available. However, like the ones that you really want to engage with and like maybe really get trained in and get down to the nitty gritty of things. Yeah, so it's interesting.
To that end, is there a large population there of LCSWs in your area? Like, is it, because Bay Area, I will say, like, in San Francisco, Bay Area proper, there's definitely an abundance, I would say, of therapists. But I'm always kind of curious about different states. Like, does it feel like an abundance or is there more scarcity? I talked to somebody in Texas, for example, that like there's a lot of scarcity of resources. So,
Yeah. I would say where I am, there is an abundance. I'm in what we call the Research Triangle area. So if people refer to the Triangle in North Carolina, it's Durham, Chapel Hill, and Raleigh because they have Durham, University of North Carolina, and NC State. So we have like those three hubs. And so I think just because those three providing quality education, there's going to be a lot more resources and there's a lot more people who are graduating from these programs and then becoming therapists and staying in the area. So.
fair enough.
Yeah.
Sorry, that was a total side, but interesting.
Yeah, no, I know. Well, it's interesting, like West Coast and East Coast too, because I'm always like, what's it like over there? Like, how is it?
For sure.
Yeah.
Same.
Yeah.
Okay, so final question in this clinical area. Is there a tool or something that we could share with the audience that might be useful that people could access and use?
Yes, there is an active listening skill that I like to use with people. So when and you can practice this with really whoever. You can practice this with your barista if you want to. So it can be so even I like to give people the barista challenge. So if someone really struggles with like they're like let's say they're like I'm also do a lot of work with people who are in dating, and so I'm like every little thing that you do is like really building up your social skills to then say that like you've practiced reps to be able to then like get to a first date and feel comfortable meeting somebody new in that kind of more intimate setting. So it can be that it's like you walk up to your barista and you say like, "Hey, like what do you recommend? Like give me your opinion on this." And let's say they're like, "It is pumpkin spice season and we have the best pumpkin spice there is." And so it's like, "Oh, really? So you're saying pumpkin spice is the best here?" And they're like, absolutely. So what you're doing is you're reflecting back exactly what they just said. And it makes the other person feel heard. And you're going to leave that interaction, and that person's going to be like, that person made me feel so good. Like they asked for my opinion. No one's asked me that all day. I've just been taking orders and then writing names on cups. Like, so when you can like have a moment and then you're reflecting back exactly what the other person said, you're going to, first off, like your understanding of another person is going to deepen and their experience of you will last.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Actually, I love your framing of it because I've never thought about it in that way, and I'm totally gonna use it that way now. But I will use it with couples. I'll like make them slow down and like I'll have one person say something and then I will have the other person reflect back without the yeah, but or the, defensive, but you said or make a joke or it's like no, 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 we're listening. What did they say? But I love the way you kind of frame it.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah. And I feel like because you work with couples, so you see like all these nuances in communication and you see how it breaks down and you're like, all right, we see how it breaks down. Like let's pause and like really hear what we're saying. Yeah. Yeah. It's a fun tool to use.
Yeah, it's a definite skill that people can learn, practice to your point, and you can practice it anywhere. Wow,
Exactly. Yeah.
great. Okay, well, thank you for the clinical insights there. And Brittany, are you ready to feel seen or be seen?
Yes. Yes. Let's do it. This is like
Okay.
exposure therapy, I hear.
All right. So first question on the questionnaire, the being seen questionnaire is, what is something that's making you happy right now?
This weather. It is sunny. It's 75. It's beautiful out. So this weather for sure.
Is that normal for Raleigh in this time of year?
Yes, it's been warmer. This like we've seen like 80 degrees for quite a while, and now we're like, oh, like fall's like starting to hit a little bit. So yeah, so it's cooling down, but it is an absolute beautiful day. So
Nice. Okay, what is your favorite app?
um my favorite and the one that I use the most are probably different. So
You can tell us
I
both. That's fine.
Yeah, yeah. So the one I unfortunately do use probably the most is Instagram. But I've been experiencing that level of brain rot where I'm like, I need to get off this app. However, it does provide some entertainment. But I would say Spotify is my absolute favorite app.
Nice, nice. This
Mhm.
this will be on Spotify, so you can listen to this podcast on Spotify. And
Can't wait.
you have a podcast as well, correct?
I do, yes, yes. It's called How to Relate. So similar to yours, I have a lot of clinicians on, and I also have some people who have done other things around like the relational field. So we talk about, we'll bring in some different topics. One that was a pretty popular episode was on male vulnerability. With Justin Karate, who's in Connecticut. I've had on a couples therapist, and we talked about, the ins and outs of couples work and how people can really deepen their relationship as a couple. So yeah, and then I've also had a friend on who's also like interviewed me. So it's like, kind of reversing the tables to see how that is and be in the hot seat for a second. So yeah.
And where can people find that one?
Anywhere you get your podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, iHeart if you're into that. So yes.
Great, love it, love it, love it. Okay, getting back to the questionnaire, beach or mountains?
I grew up a beach person and lately I've been more into the mountains.
All right.
So I might be switching. I might be converting.
Feeling the pull of the mountain.
I'm feeling I went to Idaho over the summer and I like just like the vast landscape and just seeing like the majestic Tetons. It was just absolutely amazing. So I might be a convert on this one.
That's fair. That's fair. I've been to Idaho a couple times now, and beautiful. It's like breathtakingly gorgeous.
Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing.
What is the one thing that movies never get right?
How therapists are portrayed.
Sure, for sure. What are the things that you think they get wrong about that?
Yeah, yeah. So I have two answers. One, I think is romance. I think movies never get romance right. And then I also think how therapists are portrayed. So I think they always portray therapists as these like silly, like just very silly characters who are kind of like spoofs and they really just kind of piss people off for the bit.
Yeah,
And I'm like, that's not how this goes. And then in terms of romance, it's like the woman, the high power career, the guy who's like from the small town, or like the guy who's totally unavailable, and then she changes him, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like this is why dating is so messed up.
yeah,
Like, this is what we grew up watching, and we all thought that there needed to be this obstacle that was like, oh my God, it's romantic when there's this obstacle. And I'm like, oh no, yeah, all the 90s rom-coms did us dirty.
yeah, yeah. I will say that those are two of the most common answers I've gotten so far from clinicians. You are in good company.
Great, great. We can start a support group.
For sure. Okay, what is the best way to relax for you?
Um, Taking a walk.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Being in fresh air. I like evening walks. Like I like when the sun's setting. Yeah. And again, this time of year where it's a little bit cooler, it's just, yeah, skin, like wind on your skin. Yeah.
yeah.
Feels nice.
Okay, dream trip location. Or anywhere you're wanting to go visit.
Yes. Croatia.
Oh, okay. Very cool.
Yeah. Greece and Croatia are I'm hoping that that is in my foreseeable future, but we shall see.
Fair, fair. And why Croatia? Is there like somewhere like, some, I don't know, catalyst for that besides
Yeah.
just Croatia?
Um, saw some pictures and I was like, wow, it looks beautiful there. I'm like between the beaches and the mountains and just like the whole vast landscape. I was like, it just looks like a dream. So, and anyone I've talked to people who have been, they were like, yes, it's one of my favorite places.
I've heard good things about Croatia. And you said Greece as well, like the Greek islands or like Athens or all of the above.
All the above would be great, but yeah, yeah, yeah. So, and I think Greek history is just super cool.
It's very cool. I actually Little side note about me. I did a study abroad in Paris, and then I moved to a Greek island when I was in my 20s. Yeah, and
Oh
I
my
like
God.
lived on this like Greek island for a summer, and it was lovely. But it was definitely just not reality. But I learned a lot about the culture and the history and all those things. Is amazing. So.
Yeah, you lived a dream.
It was good. It was good. It feels like it feels like a dream because it's been, 20 something years, but you know. But
Oh,
I would recommend Greece just because it is really cool to even see like all the ruin. Like it's really, really cool. And every area has different kind of feel to it. Like there's the Athens, like big city, with kind of these ruins, and then the beach or the islands are very kind of they used to build them so that pirates would have a hard time navigating them. That's why they have those like kind of so that you just kind of can follow a path and end up somewhere amazing. So
yeah. Oh, that
highly,
sounds
highly recommend.
okay. Great. Thank you.
Okay, what advice would you give your younger self?
Um, I would tell her that she doesn't have to be the therapist for everyone in her life, that she
Ooh,
can,
I love
yeah,
that.
yeah, that she doesn't have to, that doesn't have to be the persona that she lives in. So I tell her that.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, I think advice most clinicians today might resonate with for sure. Love it. Okay, out of the four seasons, which one's your favorite?
This might be an evolution for me too. I would always say summer, because I love the heat. However, that heat has gotten really turned up recently. So this past summer was like quite, crack an egg on the sidewalk and noodle fry. So now I might be saying fall, like that. Like I love a late August, so that like late summer turning into fall time period is my sweet spot. Yeah.
Fair enough. Okay, this one's a little bit more tough to think through, but what would be the worst superhero power to have?
Reading minds.
Again, the number one therapist answer for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Like something like, oh, I would love to be able to read people's minds. I'm like, oh God, no. It's too much. I like mine talks too much. I can't imagine everybody else's. Yeah.
Highly overwhelming, and I think we hear a lot already. So, being able to turn it off would be, or not being able to turn it off would be hard.
Yes.
Um, okay, what is an animal that resonates for you?
A lion.
A lion.
Yeah. I am loosely into astrology, so I'm a Leo and lion's the symbol. But also lions like to they like to lounge around and kind of like be in the sun. And then when they're ready to work, they are like all in. And then when they're ready for leisure, they are all out. So I kind of sometimes I'm a little baby, maybe too much on the leader side, but then when I'm in it, I'm like, yeah, we are in this to win this kind of thing. So yeah.
I love it. I love it. That ability to kind of turn on and turn off.
Yes.
Appropriate.
Mhm. Yeah.
Okay, so final question. When you look back at your life, what do you hope to be able to say about it?
That it was bold and beautiful and intimate.
Love it.
Mm, yeah.
Thank you, Brittany. You are officially seen.
Appreciate you. Thank you so much for giving me the space and the platform to be on here.
My pleasure. My pleasure. For anybody listening or watching, I will include Brittany's information here so you can reach out and have another conversation with her if you'd like. That said, Brittany, is there anything that we didn't talk about that you want to make sure that you mentioned, I don't know, programs or, one of the things I remember on LinkedIn that kind of caught my eye was you were about community building, which is something I'm very passionate about as well. And but is there anything that we didn't talk about that would be, good to mention? We did cover a lot, but
Sure, we did. Yeah. So I guess for anyone who's a therapist, I'm also building an online community. It's called the Therapist Collective. So it's about collaboration because I feel like a lot of us therapists, we have resources and programs or, kind of things that we're all doing both in our clinical work and also more entrepreneurially. So it's a way for us to all collaborate across state lines, across specialties onto one platform. So if you're interested, there's a little short application just to kind of say like, hey, like we're aligned here, and yeah, it's $100 a year, so I like to keep it, or $99 a year, I like to keep it kind of affordable for therapists. So yeah, so if you're interested, I'll put a link too, if that's okay.
Yeah, I will
Yeah,
definitely include the link and yeah, we'll make sure everybody has that information and you might be getting
great.
an application from me soon.
Amazing. Yes, I would love that. Yes, I love this. So, yeah, and I appreciate your also building community among therapists and having a platform for us to be seen. So, I appreciate you.
Right back at you. All right. Well, thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Thanks. Have a good one.